You found the Live Local Marketing Podcast, where business owners share their knowledge about what's working in the market today. No fluff, just their experiences and stories from people who are making it happen. And if authentic, practical marketing resonates with you, be sure to visit livelocalwarmmarketing.com and learn to grow your business on warm marketing referrals. Now, on to the show. Welcome. Thanks for joining us here today with Kurt Uhlir, the Scaling King. And that's a good title. How are we feeling today, sir?
I'm feeling great.
And the king of scaling. He's a globally recognized CMO, GTM architect, growth operator who's helped lead over 60 acquisition exits, supported 880 million IPO, and scaled multiple companies through hypergrowth. He's built go-to marketing systems, marketing agencies that have driven massive revenue growth and operational skills across B2B SaaS and consumer platforms, real estate, MarTech. I could go on and on and on, man. Your resume is insanely impressive. So we're going to do the 7 questions. We're going to get all the knowledge out of you. We'll get the clock here started, and we always start with something fun. I want to know, with all that insane experience you have as an entrepreneur, what was your first win?
My first win was realizing that execution beats ideas or concepts. Seeing that, that disciplined action always outperforms brilliant plans. And so that helped me kind of start to figure out learning momentum daily. It's not announced quarterly. You don't necessarily go tell people. It's just putting in the reps day in and day out. And so that winning early, that taught me how to then do it repeatedly. I mean, I learned that at 14, actually, before I got into kind of marketing, that actually when I was 13, I had sold so much lawn care business, I had to start hiring friends. And then I started hiring friends' dads. And so as that Christmas came up when I was 13, my dad goes, "The IRS is going to come after you for payroll taxes. You need to figure that out." And so that was actually like the implementation of that execution beat. Like mowing a lawn, I mean, like that's still hard work, but where most people fail is they don't want to be told no. And I'm like, I had no problem telling no, being told no. And I had no problem knocking on the first 3 doors that said yes. And then using that to say, well, I'm already doing their lawns. Can I do your lawn? And so I by the time I ended up graduating high school, I had more than 14 people working for me full time, not counting part-time people, and ended up selling that business, all because my first win really came down to saying, yeah, ideas don't matter. I mean, they do matter, but it matters the execution.
Yeah, getting things done. So with the execution, like how much patience should someone have with what they're doing and determining if it's working or not, you know?
You usually have to try more times than you think. I mean, it's rare that you just get something done and it just clicks right away. And so it's like, I think like in the concept of, like, say, door knocking thing, like, hey, like I think everybody should cold call for 6 months because you need to figure out what not working actually feels like and be okay with that. But ideally you plan ahead of time. How long are you going to put in place this test to find out if it's useful or not?
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So let's move on. You've worked with some really big businesses and they already have like established brands and they already have established settings. How does that conversation go when you see them with their brand? Are you like trying to analyze, or you trying to help them with their story? How does that conversation go?
A lot of times for especially bigger brands, but like even now, like I'm at a company called Easy Home Search. We're, a Zillow, Redfin competitor, Movoto competitor. And so while it's, we're a national search portal, real estate's a very local thing. And so whether it's those big brands or working with somebody a little more local, it's helping them slow down to say brand is what people trust you with with their money and their time. And it's how they describe you consistently when you're not around, including their judging parts about it. Like there's nothing wrong with judgment. We all do it. But when you're not in the room, how do your customers, your past customers, the people that have chosen to not work with you anymore, how are they describing you? In most companies, whether local or massive, they haven't taken the time to slow that down and think that, or come back and reevaluate it. They think it's what they're pushing out. I mean, I'll step into $100 million, software as a service company, and I'll ask them those questions, and they'll tell me something that they put on a marketing strategy document 5 years beforehand, and I'm like, that's not your brand. At this point, you have a lot of customers. How are they describing you? When it comes down to it, is there a consistency under pressure about how your reps show up? Your marketing language contributes to that, but it's really how does that come forward for other people describing you? Like personally, my brand, when you ask people, they say Kurt is one of the top B2B CMOs in the world, but he's a servant leader at heart. And so depending on the category, somebody might switch those two, but those two will almost always come together. That's part of how you define a reputation. And it's not the messaging you're pushing.
That's amazing. I do have so many follow-up questions. We're going to keep it moving because maybe I'll stick it in the end there. So at this point, what systems are you doing? What systems are you handing off to a team? And where do you find yourself the most effective?
Great question. The first thing about systems is I'm always thinking in terms of systems. I'm always trying to take those one-off thoughts and put them into a workflow of some sort. And I find most people, they think about systems, but it's a one-off, as opposed to if this is more than the second time I've had this thought or had to adjust something, I'm trying to decide, is that a system that I need to put it into, or does it stay in a bucket of one-offs? Personally, I'm handling strategic clarity, leadership conversations, which very frequently goes into either coaching for individual players. I find from a systems perspective, where I apply the best is helping define the system, helping other people refine that, and then stepping in shoulder to shoulder with people that are running the systems, teaching them how to do it better or how to do it my way. And often with that, then one of the parts that I will step into that's built into all of my systems is healthy conflict. I find so many people flee from conflict. And I think, especially in one-on-ones, it's my job to seek out the conflict, both in what people might be seeing in gaps that I'm not seeing, where they don't want to tell you that, but gaps that the companies or things that they think the company could be doing differently, and seeking that out. And then for me, I'm personally handling judgment calls. I try to enable my teams and the systems to make as many judgment calls as possible. But when need be, I will step in and say, if you spent more than this long, then we need to define that. And so I think at that level, it's like, then the other part of my systems is I do try to keep about 80% of my time being a mad scientist, creating the next system that I will hand back to the team, potentially to completely restructure what they're doing.
Wow, that is really impressive. Yeah, teaching a man to fish, right? You're not trying to fish for him.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I'd prefer to make as few decisions as possible so I can spend more time being that mad scientist and coming back with something new.
That's amazing. So of all those systems and all the things you've been doing, what marketing strategy are you done with? Like, this doesn't work. Put it aside. Don't ever come back and do this ever again. A quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
At a broad level, I'd say chasing every new channel or tactic. In saying no, I would also, just not to say a specific marketing thing, but saying no to short-term optics. I find most marketers, where they fail, or most business owners fail, is they look at only lagging indicators, or they adjust their indicators that they track so frequently. And so I'm much more going to be like, I care about leading indicators much more than lagging. Revenue is a lagging indicator. And so, getting referrals from your customers, that's both a lagging and a leading indicator. But that's where I'm going to shift things much more. And so things that I have foregone at this point, I have, like, AI. I love AI. I think we're going to talk more about that in a minute, but it's like,
we are.
AI to me, I have given up on handing things off completely to AI right now, because it not only originally was it going chaotic so much, it's hallucinating so much more now, where it's like somewhere between 8 and 20% of the time, it will say something batshit crazy about my brand that's completely opposite of what I told it. I'll say never mention competitors and puts it in there. And so there's very few things I could trust AI to do and act as an agent in a workflow to hand things off, even if I put an editor or kind of AI in there. So that's probably the one thing of just believing AI is going to do everything, as opposed to some of the things where I am using it today.
So you have the shiny object syndrome, which is where you started the conversation, and you're just trying to avoid that shiny object syndrome. How do you know when a thing is going to be affected versus shiny object? How do you discern those two?
Yeah, you don't always know. And so I do
Okay.
find one of the things that I kind of look at is how much are people often talking about things. And like AI, everybody keeps talking, whether at the boardroom for private equity companies or local, electricians, that AI is just going to take over everything. And
Yeah.
so I usually start right away. I start to go, it feels like from a spidey sense perspective that we're talking about a bubble and people are going to go too much either polar, it'll do everything, or I shouldn't trust it with everything. And usually that's where I will start to slow down real quick and start to go, what should I be looking
And reflect. Got it. You're very reflective, I can tell. You just look at the system, reflect on the system. Is it working? Toss and get rid of what you need.
for? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's do it. Best use of AI. So you said you're tossing some things in there. Obviously, there's some glitches. It throws a lot of cliches around no matter how much you train it. So, what are some best uses versus what are some things we shouldn't be doing? A quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, probably the two main ways that I end up using it is as a force multiplier, not a replacement. And so, like at a previous company, relatively recently, as AI was starting, I had a 40+ person content team, and even there, we were optimizing the content and going faster with it because of AI. I now have like a 3 person content team
Yeah. Yeah.
doing as much or more than I was before, and an engineer thrown in there because we're doing a lot of programmatic stuff. So I'm using it as a force multiplier. And it's changing then the people that I bring in, because to be a force multiplier, I have to have more senior people. I have to have on the content side, not just writers, I have to have editors and people that can think in terms of systems and
Yeah.
people that are willing to try things and come back with stuff. The second thing is I'm really using AI a lot right now for compressing research, synthesis,
Oh.
and working on workflows. I've been working on something for a large executive organization, national organization that I'm on the board for. I've been working with them with AI, like 3 different AIs, to just rework the workflow and then the individual systems and the templates for each of these stages. At first, I thought I was going to hand it all off to AI by the time I was done. And now I've actually worked through it. And the AI has helped me figure out where it might go sideways. So it's like I finish a template for this is what the profile should look like. I feed it back into the 3 different ones and say, hey, where could this go sideways? And where might I need a human to look at it? And then like that's helping me identify how even my concept of the workflow should change. And so that's going to feed back into the systems going forward. And so I'm using actually AI to help me figure out and then address how it thinks so that I can identify where, yeah, my human intuition of what I could hand off might not work. And so I'm ending up with a lot of things now where my biggest win is speed to clarity, not necessarily volume. The end of the day, my volume goes up substantially, but my first thing is using AI to find the speed to clarity for, is this what we want to write? Is this what is actually going to rank with topical authority today? Is this what we need for my customers? Is this the workflow that I need? And after I nail that, the volume just happens. That's a lagging indicator at that point.
That's excellent advice. Yeah, we can't do our creative. We have to use it to make it the data and all the back end stuff. That's excellent. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to talk about budgeting. So this is the beginning of the year. People are going to be sitting down. Where areas should they be most focused on when it comes to scaling and growing their business in regards to their budget?
The first thing is, before they should even think about where their budget goes, they should just make sure that they have clarified who their target customer is and the real problem that their customer thinks they're solving. I say that because you may think the problem you're solving is something different than them. And so, as an example, if you're a contractor that's renovating people's kitchens, you think it's giving them a new kitchen. The homeowner is usually going to come back afterwards, and yeah, they'll say they got a new kitchen, but instead this became the hub of my household. This became where company comes over. So that's the real problem. The new kitchen and how that's formed. That's one of the implementations that you're providing to that. And so you need to identify what your customer would say after they've willingly and gladly given you money. What would they say the problems that they solve? From there, then you take your budgeting in. It needs to be, especially at the local level, you split it into 3 categories. Money that you will get a return on in the next 2 to 12 months, 12 months to 36 months, and 36 months and a day. And what I mean by that is, like, that third category, you should have some percentage of your marketing budget or overall budget going into. But imagine if you could see leading indicators that proves you're on the right track, but you got zero return for the dollar until 36 months and 1 day. Now it could likely happen faster, but that's where budgeting takes place, because when you've clarified, I want 80% of my money going here, 15% going in that middle frame, and 5% going later, the decisions about the strategy and the implementation within those becomes almost effortless at that point.
I'm now gonna have to change my budget. Like, that makes so much more sense to think that long term and have a certain amount set for that long term. I'm changing my budget now. Thanks, man. I appreciate you warping my mind today. All right, so yeah, that the last question we have for today, and then we'll get into your business and talk about that a little bit, and then do the outro with you, and then where can people get a hold of you? But before, cliche, the word of the day is always burning out and rest and recharging. So I always ask my people, like, what types of things do you do to rest and recharge? You talked about AI. You can now handle all the things, but you don't want to, because then again, you'll burn out. So what kind of things do you do to kind of like recharge yourself?
It's for me, I believe much more in active rest. It's rare for me to just stare out the window. I'm sitting staring out the window, or I'll like at the mountain view. It's actually me thinking more about like knowledge work and strategy and business stuff.
Yeah.
For me, from a rest perspective, I have to be active. And that was really hard for me because I've always had the energy. I don't want to sit. Do not give me a beach to go sit on for 7 days. Like, I'll go crazy.
Yeah,
Plus I love what I do. And I had a mentor for years that would push me for rest, because for him, he did need quiet reading time, hiking, being on a beach without any podcast or music. And for me, my rest looks much more like, over the Christmas holiday, in 2 days, my 6-year-old and 4-year-old and we planted 500 camellia bush cuttings on our property in North Georgia.
Whoa.
And so stripping the cuttings, making it down, going out on property, digging holes, putting those in. It's going to be things like that, cutting wood. I need things like that, because for me, I don't know if it's just my energy level or like you, most of what you do day in and day out is knowledge work. And so I need things that to some cases are actually risky. Like, hey, I'm going to teach my 6-year-old how to use the chainsaw. And he's going to be safe and he's going to be wearing chaps with it. But you have to be 100% focused on that to do that. And because that keeps me from going back into, hey, what do I need to do for the client?
There's a lot of the stuff you do to recharge, like outdoorsy type stuff, like nature based.
It's usually outdoors, nature based for me.
Yeah. So you just get out there and enjoy some nature, get some fresh air. Otherwise, you're sitting in an office way too long.
Yeah. I mean, you'll find me some cases on a lot of my podcasts with this beautiful mountain view behind us because we have a mountain property. And so,
nice.
I'll work from out there as well, but that's different than going out and doing things.
Do you hike the mountain? Do you do any of that stuff?
Hike the mountains, make hiking trails. So we do hike and walk with our kids, but we make a lot of hiking trails. I think I've, not even counting what's on our property, but I've made more than 60 miles of trails over my life.
Holy cow.
On state and federal land. So,
I mean, is there a process to it? You just shovel it? How do you make a trail? How do you do that?
Some cases you may start with wildlife trails, but a lot of it's actually learning what I didn't know at first. But you think about, mechanical engineering and civil engineering, water runoffs, and making sure that when the water is going to run flat, you may have to have little drainage ditches to take it off to the side because water will just erode things. Or then it's places where it's much more of my active rest, where it's like, hey, we need to rent a skid steer and go have fun. I mean, my now 6-year-old was 3.5, and I put him in a skid steer on our property, and we went out for probably an hour and a half longer than he wanted, but we went out for like 5 hours that day, just tearing through and over trees.
That's awesome. All right, that is great. That's awesome. So there's a million more things we could talk about. Like, your knowledge is just so deep. So let's do the quick pitch about your business, and then where people can find you, and then we'll let you free to go do more trailing.
Well, I work day to day as a chief marketing officer. So Easy Home Search, it's the only privacy focused search business that's out there for you to do any real estate looking. So we're not selling your leads for $1,000 a pop, which is what most people do. My personal business is I always have a small number of CEOs or CMOs at companies where I'm coaching them to help them win at work and at home, because those two have to go together for me. And so people can find me either talking about traditional marketing or on that kind of winning at home at work on my own website at kurtuhlir.com, or it'll branch you off to anywhere else. If you want more of the business side, it'll send you to LinkedIn. If you want to see me doing the skid steer with the 6-year-old, it's going to send you to Instagram.
That is awesome. All right. So we have the website, we have information. Man, I appreciate your time today. Like I said, a vast amount of knowledge. We probably could talk for another 2 hours. So I appreciate your time here today. And hopefully we can get some folks your way to help guide them through their business and through their family life.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Billy.